The morning sun had only just begun to rise when the world revealed its harsh truth to Marissa Hale once again. Golden rays spilled over a quiet parking lot on the outskirts of the city, illuminating the battered old sedan where she sat huddled in the driver's seat, clutching her sleeping baby to her chest. She had spent yet another night praying the cold wouldn't creep too deeply into her child's bones, that no one dangerous would knock on the window, that life would somehow show her even the smallest fragment of mercy. But mercy had become a stranger. Hunger gnawed at her, exhaustion blurred her vision, and the weight of hopelessness pressed on her so heavily that even breathing felt like a battle she was losing. And just when she thought she couldn't break any further, she heard footsteps approaching the car, slow, steady, and purposeful, followed by a knock on the window that made her heart stop. If you believe in kindness, hope, and second chances, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Echoes of Kindness. Your support helps stories like this reach more hearts. Marissa tightened her arms around her baby, Rowan, as if her love alone could shield him from the world. For a split second, she considered pretending the car was empty, but survival instincts pushed her to lift her weary gaze. Outside stood a tall man in an immaculate suit, his expression unreadable, his posture confident. Everything about him screamed wealth, stability, and a life so far removed from hers that it felt like a different universe. She braced herself for judgment, for anger, for being told to leave. But what she didn't know was that this moment, this single knock, would unravel a chain of events that would change everything she believed about herself, about humanity, and about fate. Hours earlier, before dawn had fully broken, Marissa had taken Rowan for a slow walk around the block, whispering promises she wasn't sure she could keep. She had once believed in dreams, she studied early childhood education, worked part-time at a daycare, and lived in a tiny apartment she cherished. But life unraveled faster than she could patch the seams. Her landlord sold the building with only 21 days' notice. Her ex-partner, who had promised to help, vanished. Her job cut her hours due to budget changes. The savings she clung to drained far too quickly, and before she could grasp what was happening, she found herself standing on the side of the road with everything she owned stuffed into 2 bags and a child she swore she would never fail. She slept in the car for the first time thinking it would be temporary. But temporary stretched into weeks, and soon every sunrise became another reminder of how far she had fallen. She tried everything. She applied to countless jobs, but showing up tired and unshowered meant doors closed before she could open them. Shelters were full. Daycare was too expensive. A relative offered help, then rescinded it at the last moment. The world, it seemed, had run out of grace. Yet, she kept trying because Rowan deserved more than the pieces of a broken life. She spent the mornings parked near a local community center where she hoped to find work, keeping her baby entertained with soft songs as she silently cried into her hands, praying no one would see. The man who now stood outside her car was named Adrian Keston, a CEO known in the business world for his iron discipline and relentless commitment to his company, Keston Innovations. People called him demanding, intimidating, and brilliant. What they didn't know was that on this specific morning, he had taken a rare walk through the neighborhood near his office to clear his mind after a restless night of questioning the purpose behind all the success he had built. He had recently lost his mother, a woman who dedicated her life to helping struggling families, and he felt an ache in his soul he didn't know how to quiet. When he spotted the unfamiliar car in the far corner of the lot, a car with fogged windows, a car that looked lived in, something inside him pulled him forward. As he stood outside the car, waiting for Marissa's response, he noticed the tiny bundle in her arms, the faint puff of breath from the baby's lips, the signs of long-term exhaustion etched into her features. And in that moment, the walls that built his empire felt meaningless compared to the reality of a mother clinging to survival a few feet away. It wasn't pity he felt, it was responsibility, a calling echoing inside him louder than any corporate ambition ever had. Marissa slowly cracked the window, apologizing even though she wasn't sure what she was apologizing for. Her eyes were swollen, her voice barely audible, and her heart rattled like loose glass. She expected him to tell her to leave the property. Instead, he simply asked her if she was okay, and the sincerity in his voice smashed through the emotional barricade she had built to survive. Tears poured down her face before she could stop them, and she turned away, ashamed. Adrian didn't pressure her. He stepped back, giving her space, and waited. Minutes passed before she found the strength to speak. She didn't reveal everything, just pieces. She mentioned losing her home, losing hours at her job, having nowhere else to go. She spoke with trembling hands and eyes fixed on the steering wheel. Adrian listened quietly, absorbing every word, letting her share without fear. When she finished, she expected him to walk away. Instead, he made a decision that would redirect both their lives. He asked her to follow him to his company's nearby building, assuring her that she and Rowan would be safe there temporarily. Marissa hesitated, questioning whether trusting a stranger, especially one so powerful, was wise. But Rowan stirred in her arms, and desperation whispered that perhaps this was the moment her prayers had been leading toward. She followed him, her heart pounding. Inside the building, she was led to a quiet employee lounge where a security supervisor and a team of female staff members were instructed to help her. They brought warm blankets, fresh clothes, and food. Rowan received formula and a small stuffed bear from the office's charity stash. As Marissa fed him, tears continued to stream down her face, not from fear, but from a strange and overwhelming emotion she had almost forgotten: hope. Adrian didn't linger in the room. Instead, he stepped out to make calls, arranging emergency housing assistance, speaking to contacts, and gathering resources far beyond what Marissa could imagine. He worked with the intensity of a man who had found a purpose bigger than profit margins. Hours passed before he returned, and what he told her left her breathless. He had secured temporary housing for her in a safe family shelter with private rooms, arranged help for long-term housing, and contacted a partner organization to assist with childcare support so she could return to work.